It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, the Detroit Lions gave the entire NFL enough thrills to last for many years to come, but that doesn't erase the heartbreak resulting from a 34-31 defeat against the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Adding to the hurt is that the Lions led by 17 points at the half and suffered a catastrophic collapse, resulting in the end of their 2023 season. We'll look back at the game, the season as a whole, and talk about the immediate future coming up. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Drzinski Drew, and it is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. And we are talking about the end of the 2023 season for the Detroit Lions. But, man, before I introduce our roundtable, man, it's been a special season. It was a special time, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it. But we first got to get through that NFC Championship game, which we're still hurting from, but it's fun to talk about it. But first, let's start with Coach Andy Shield, Marine City Mariners. Coach, how you doing?
Doing well, Drew. Doing well. It's it was obviously a melancholy feeling Sunday evening. Been fortunate enough to be in this game for quite some time, 30 plus years, and only one season did I ever leave truly satisfied. I mean, it ends usually in the form of defeat to a playoff team. It usually does. And, this won't be the first time, unfortunately, during this run that this happens. But we have to look at, what we did as a monumental leap from the 9-8 season that we thought was a just absolute great success last year. This is a 3-game improvement in the regular season. We won the division. We won 2 home playoff games, and those are the two of the 3 playoff games we've won in the last 60 years. And it also comes to be 2 home playoff wins, which there's just not that many in franchise history. So it's an amazing success. It's an amazing success, but we are not ultimately satisfied because we got one more thing to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have fun talking about that in a little bit. Thanks, Coach. And then we're joined also by Detroit's finest, Justin Merriquin. Justin, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. It's been a roller coaster of emotions. The woulda, coulda, shoulda. 30 minutes away from the Super Bowl, that's still mind-boggling. But like Coach said, just an amazing season, the ups and downs. More ups and downs, I would say, after really letting the dust settle and letting my mind kind of, clear out, looking back on this team. Just incredible. The coaches, too. Like, I can't think of another team, really, with the coaches and the players so intertwined with each other. Just really cool. And all positional coaches as well. Like Hank Fraley, Antoine Randall, Kelvin Shepard, Aaron Glenn, of course, Ben Johnson, of course, Dan Campbell and company. I think we have really something special here in Detroit. So, yes, it does suck. We're not going to watch, our Lions take on the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but there is a hell of a lot to be excited about and to look forward to next season.
Yeah, you got it, Justin. And we're also joined by the Uper Brad Harrison via Wisconsin, but we know where his heart is in the D and in Rapid River, Michigan. Brad, how you doing?
Yeah. My sentiments exactly to what Coach and Justin just talked about. I think about where we sit today, and you think about what's happened over these last 3 years, what Sheila Hamp started. And I've seen Dan Campbell do this. 3 years ago, we were here. Spielman, Campbell, Holmes. So now we need to keep it going, right? Like that, we need to keep moving ahead. And monumental, I think, is what Andy said. And no doubt, from where we started 3 years ago to where we just finished on Sunday, monumental steps. And I've got a lot of trust in the powers that be there, that unfinished business is going to be written on the chalkboard if they still have chalkboards in Allen Park.
Well, they should if they don't, right?
They have whiteboards.
Well, they probably got some kind of electronic, I mean.
Yeah, they have whiteboards.
They have whiteboards and smart boards.
Yeah, dry erase markers.
You guys summed it up nicely. From my perspective, Coach said they won 2 playoff games. They won the North. The expectation coming into this season, from me personally, I think from all of us, was that they would win the division, at least host and win a playoff game, and they did that. And they went above and beyond that. And then once you get to that championship game, well, all bets are off now. Anything can happen. And damn, after the first 30 minutes, guys, 24-7 lead. I mean, it was like, I know we were all on a text chain. We were all communicating. And I had 5 different chains going in. There was not one person that said this one's in the bag, because we know better. It's anything can happen. And guys, this game really mirrored the Saints game in my mind this year. Lions jumped out to 21-point lead in the first quarter and hung on to win that game 24-21, if I recall correctly, in New Orleans. Now that's the Saints. These are the 49ers. That's tough to do, and you can't live like that. But 34-31, we're going to talk about the game, and then we'll talk about the season and what lies ahead shortly, including in April, the city of Detroit's hosting the NFL draft, which is going to be an absolute thrill. But it's tough to think about that now, still coming off this loss. So, we'll get into it. And realistically, when you look at the defense, guys, and Lions gave up 155 yards on the ground. Now, 90 of those are to McCaffrey. Now, if you told me off the hop the Lions are going to hold McCaffrey under 100 yards rushing, I'm going to be pretty happy. Unfortunately, Brock Purdy gashed him. He did. Coach, I'll start with you. Just your thoughts on on the Lions defense as a whole in this game. But man, the Niners. I know the Lions left some plays out there, but the Niners on offense, especially Purdy, made some plays that you just had to shake your head. I mean, it's just scrambling around. The throw he made to Jennings, I believe, which is the only catch he had over the middle, looked like one of the worst throws I've ever seen. And lo and behold, he comes down with it. I mean, it's just talk about the performance by the defense.
Well, with that specific play, I was thinking back to okay, they can't beat us that way. I mean, you aren't going to beat us making throws like that and plays like that. It was like a 6-yard gain too. I mean, it was a very strange looking play. It's like the play you would see like in a state championship game at the Division 7 level. It's a really weird play. But to get back to the statistics, guys, they weren't one-dimensional. They weren't. You had another dimension. Okay, we did a decent job with CMC. And we did, we did a decent job, probably good enough to win. Obviously, in certain areas of the game, if they went the other way, we would have won. We only lost by 3. As you stated earlier, I mean, and Deebo Samuel had a little bit to do with that running game too. But, we allowed Mr. Irrelevant. Okay, we allowed Mr. Irrelevant of the draft, Brock Purdy, to run around on us like he was Lamar Jackson, run around on us like he was Justin Fields, run around on us like he's Jordan Love, run around on us like he's Geno Smith, and I'll stop right there because anyone that can run around on us like Dak Prescott will go with one more. Josh Dobbs we can keep going. We don't do well with a running quarterback. And that is case point number 1 from this perspective where we have to change. And that has to become better. And it has to be better in the scheme. Coach Glenn needs to develop. It's obviously there's some sort of schematic, difference there that needs to be addressed. We need to be better up front. We need to be more athletic. We need to be more, we can't be so sided with our pass rush. And we have to have better defensive back play, just pure, plain and simple. We need to be more talented, more dynamic as defensive backs. I think we can be a lot different defensively. But these statistics, if you look at it, we lost in these statistics, even though, we could look at certain things with maybe other, calls, decisions, dropped passes that could, fumbles that could be really pointed as to the reasons why we lost. These right here, these statistics, these aren't the statistics of a championship defense.
Yeah, it is what it is. You're right. I mean, it just they did not, certainly in the second half, did not play well enough to win, and subsequently did not. Brad, your thoughts on this one? I saw a lot of missed tackles. The initial stops that could have been made on 1 or 2 yard gains ended up being 8 or 9 yard gains in this one. Talk about your thoughts on this defense.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a worst case scenario for what we saw this year. I mean, there were games where we got the best we could get from the talent on the field. And this was not that game. These guys maximize their potential, and it's not good enough to beat the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And Andy's point is spot on. Like, this is the work that's going to be done between now and next, I don't know, I guess between now and the draft.
Yeah.
The free agency, the drafting. I don't want to discredit the guys that were out there fighting, right? Like, I don't think any of us are doing that.
The greatest Lions football team since 1957.
Absolutely. So I'm not discrediting who they are or what they did. They maximized what they can do from a linebacker position, from a cornerback position, defensive tackles. There's some keystones on that defense: the McNeils, the Hutchinsons, the safeties minus CD Deuce.
Right.
Those guys are keystones to this future, and the rest are going to get a hard look, and they're more are going to be back than the ones I just named. But one of the things that I appreciated Dan Campbell say Monday, he's got to take the. I'm paraphrasing, but just because I like you doesn't mean you're going to stay here, right? Like, that was his point. We got to take the emotion out of it and make the decision to make this the best roster we can moving forward. And that's going to happen. And once again, I this is how many times, guys, did we talk about 1991? I mean, on this podcast, like 32 years later, we're still talking. 32 years later, we're going to be talking about this team.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be talking about what Derek Barnes did against Tampa Bay. That is legendary.
Yep.
Legendary. So thank you for all you've done, everybody on this roster, from the practice squad on down or on up. Thank you. It's time to get better.
Well said, Duper. Well said. I Coach, you touched on the running quarterbacks and schematics. I watched that Chiefs Bills game beforehand, and I watched that Chiefs defense, and there were several times, and Justin, maybe you can chime in on this too. I saw 3-man fronts with 2 spies in the second level, either linebacker or nickel back or safety, spying there on Josh Allen, and the secondary was able to hold it down while they got away with that. And then there were times they were only bringing 4 with a single spy, and they were getting pressure and penetration on Allen and making life difficult. I agree with Brad that there's foundational guys there, no question, but there's definitely pieces that need to be added. I'm not sure what that is or who that is, but Justin, your thoughts on what you saw out there in this championship game?
Yeah, I got to point out what Brad said, and it's perfectly said that the defense maximized its potential. He's absolutely right with that statement. Is we knew what kind of defense we had, not the greatest, especially the secondary. But like Brad said, man, those guys played, to the final whistle. They played hard, and I call them championship plays that just pop up in big-time games. Big-time players make big-time plays, and that's what Brock Purdy did. Deebo Samuel, Jennings, like you said, his only catch. That just does not happen. Throwing across your body like that's a cardinal sin in Pee Wee football, and he got away with it in the championship game. So that's the way I see it is, we weren't going to get any better at that point. We did have, players in the right position, Melifon whiffing on, Brock Purdy, even CD Deuce, like Brad said, he whiffed. That was uncharacteristic of him because he's usually a bulldozer coming in there flying. He missed, a tackle on Deebo Samuel, Cam Sutton, you go down the list. So I don't know. Obviously, we have to get better. We got to get better on every single level, defensive line, linebacker, and the secondary. But like Brad and Coach pointed out, we have some keystone players that we can build around, and our team is young. Our team is relatively young, so that's a good thing. They just got championship level experience. You can't teach that. I don't care, not in a practice or the practice squad going against the ones or twos or what. You cannot teach that. You need to be in that type of setting, and you need to, understand and learn the nuances of a championship game because everything is on the line. Everything counts. Everything. A snap, your route running, the angles that you take on defense, the tackling, the arm tackles, all that stuff. So I think moving forward, a lot of our young guys learned a hell of a lot on Sunday, and they're going to take that forward into the next season.
Yeah, guys, I think you all have a very good perspective on this, and I'll chime in a little bit here. Defensively, you said the missed tackles that hurt. That hurt a lot. Heard a lot of second, and I get it. There's going to be second guessing on the line, and we'll talk about the offense a little bit. But defensively, I want to talk about Malcolm Rodriguez. When Derek Barnes went down, it was like, uh-oh. But man, Rodrigo gets in there, and that dude played his ass off, and he got that lone interception you see up there, and he made 6 tackles in that game, and he made a critical tackle early, and then the interception. It was just like damn. I mean, it was next man up. And that linebacking core has really solidified itself as a very solid piece to this defense. Coach, you touched on. I mean, they need one more pass rush threat. It was nice to have James Houston back, and it did help. That was only his third game of technically third game of the year. But what else did you see that they really need to address and maybe shore up to take it to the next level in this one?
Yeah, we need more. I would hasten to say we need a little bit more than just that. I think we need to see more defensive personnel. I think we need to be just more athletic up front. I think we do have to be longer and quicker in our pass rush. We need somebody that is going to truly complement Aiden Hutchinson. We need somebody that's going to be able to spell Aiden Hutchinson, and James Houston can be also, another piece, kind of a 4-headed monster with that. We need to be better at the defensive tackles. We were great run stoppers. We had a bunch of run stoppers in there, but we do not have guys that can make plays and do some different things. Scheme wise, hey, you're talking about a 3-man front. Okay. So, that's called an odd front. When you can push a pocket through the center and the center of the pocket, you're going to create different things for that quarterback. That quarterback has to spill. He can't pick an alley and run through it or gut you up the middle and that kind of thing, because your pass rush is arcing and there's, the pocket's actually truly formed. That happens too often within our scheme. You mentioned, Malcolm Rodriguez and how happy any Detroit Lion fan would have to be for him, for a guy to be so selfless and understanding and taking whatever role he can get and maximizing it. He played fullback this year. He was a special team stalwart. And then once he was called upon in a big football game to play substitute downs as a linebacker, like you had said very well, Drew, he's making, big picks and half dozen tackles or more. Like you had said, the linebacking core does seem real solid. Yeah, is there a piece we could get better here? Is Anthony Pittman going to be around next year? Are we going to do something different there? We could. Speed and size and young, fresh legs will always be welcome in Allen Park in Detroit. That's just going to be the case. We need to have this defense better and deeper than it was last year. And that means we're going to have some turnover. There are football players. We don't have to go into that episode tonight because I think we got some bigger fish to fry as far as the big picture. But there's going to be some names, that I'll gladly put my, my opinion on that shouldn't probably be back. We should probably look to broaden our depth on defense.
Yeah, you're right, Coach. And before we jump into the offense here, guys, I want to ask you all. Obviously Dan Campbell's taking a lot of heat for his fourth down gambles. I don't have the data breakdown. This is just me talking from my gut here. But this team's an 8-win team without Dan Campbell's gambling on fourth down. So you can't be okay with it through weeks 17 and 18, and then all of a sudden now you don't dig it. Well, then you shouldn't have been digging it at all. I mean, and I get it. Trust me. I wasn't comfortable with the last one, but then I threw my hands in the air. I'm like, this is the Lions, and I'm going to embrace it. And the first one, I mean, I'm sorry, I love Josh Reynolds, but man, that ball hit him right in the 8. I mean, what are you going to do? I don't know. And it's just, it wasn't that it was a bad call. They didn't execute. The players admitted that. Hell, Reynolds admitted that. I'm not sure why the narrative is still that it was a questionable decision. It's mostly from the national medium because it's fun. It's a hot take, I think. But Coach, I mean, this is why the Lions are successful. We see this all the time. And Brad, your thoughts on this first.
Well, thank you. Hindsight being 2020 and seeing we lost the game and we didn't get the first down. I mean, it's simple to say, why it wasn't the right thing to do. I think it was 21 times this year within that yardage that we went for it, and 18 of them were converted. That was the right play. I mean, that was a very similar play to what closed out the game at Lambeau 2 years ago. DJ Shark caught the ball. Josh Reynolds did not. Now, these are higher stakes. So, this narrative that it's all emotion and it's all, he just needs to check himself and think. No. Dan Campbell thinks plenty. And that was a thoughtful decision he made. It didn't work. Let's be honest. It didn't work out. So hindsight tells you it was wrong. But for those of us who've watched this team longer than for the last 3 years, but surely for the last 3 years, weren't surprised. My toes were curled up because that was it. That second one, that was it. And didn't work. So, I'm glad the people that matter aren't the ones with chattering on about Dan Campbell. Like the ones that matter are with him. And we'll see what happens next time.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, brother. Can't agree with you more. Coach, schematically from when I read on that second attempt that last attempt on fourth down was that the Niners actually really disguised their coverage. They feinted man, but then went to zone, I believe. And I believe it was the only time they did that in the game. And I think that kind of crossed. I think it's what Goff said, crossed them up. Your thoughts on that one?
Well, man, that's championship defense by championship coaches, doing that kind of a thing. That's what it takes. That's how you win a ball game at this level and stature. So, I mean, were the Detroit Lions out-coached? Ultimately, yes, they were. I mean, and that's not to throw shade at the Detroit Lion coaches or anything like that. Kyle Shanahan's staff did a better job of getting, results throughout the 60 minutes of a football game than the Detroit Lions. And that's just the pure plain facts. That is not saying that Dan Campbell's decision-making is the reason why the Detroit Lions lost the football game. Were we outcoached? Yes. Did Campbell lose the game? Absolutely not. That is the Detroit Lions. That is who we are. That is who we are when we're going to win 12 games, and that is who we are when we lose in the NFC Championship game. So, it's incredibly poor taste to play both sides of the fence on that. There's plenty in life that you can do that. And in this one, if you're truly a sincere Detroit Lions fan, you can be, maybe hoping that Coach Campbell does sort of look at things, and more of a case-by-case basis in the future, where the stakes are a little bit differently. When you're trying to achieve to get into those stakes is when maybe you take the gambles a little bit more. When maybe the time when, we are not supposed to get this one is when you take the gambles a little bit more. When you're trying to seal the deal or fend something off to get to a plateau that is the ultimate goal and the holy grail of what you've been trying to do, tirelessly this entire season, well, maybe you do think a little bit differently in certain areas. That being said, if Josh Reynolds catches that ball, we probably are talking about what it's like to be going to Las Vegas this coming up weekend. Not maybe us personally, but the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I agree.
I got kids to put through college, Drew. I gotta try to keep this family together. But we don't have to worry about that, right?
Not this year, no.
But I just think we offensively we are, and Coach Campbell probably he definitely probably affiliates with the offense more than he does any other, in special teams, probably more than he does a little bit on the defense. Our offense is good to go. Our offense is good to go. It's good enough to win a Super Bowl. That is not a problem. I have full faith in Coach Campbell and Coach Johnson and all the offensive and special teams coaches. We're in great shape there. I am not at all bitter because of some of those decisions.
Yeah, no, well said, Coach. And I'll Justin, I want to let you lead off with this one because you broke the news to us that Ben Johnson, I believe, was going to be staying in town. And wow, I was pretty happy. I'm sitting at work, and you made my morning, so I appreciate that, brother. I didn't have any notifications on the phone going, but talk about how important that is and the significance of Ben Johnson sticking around for at least another year.
Oh, it is huge. Like Coach just said, our offense can win a Super Bowl. We are built to win a Super Bowl, and with Ben Johnson again potentially at the helm calling the plays, that is huge. And Coach knows that. With a coach and player relationship like him with Jared Goff and the rest of those guys in the offense, you don't have to get somebody else new to come in, different terminology, different plays, different audibles. All this stuff is going to pretty much stay the same. Yeah, there'll be some new wrinkles, of course, in there. And, if we bring in some more players and whatnot on offense, but this is huge. This is just continuity, moving forward. Everything, is on the right path, on the right track. And I was shocked, to say the least, because everything I was reading, he was good to go with Washington. I even read a plane was coming here. I watched a video yesterday on YouTube. Brady Quinn was going back and forth with a CBS reporter because the CBS reporter was saying, oh, well, now he's going to kill his chances, next season. And Brady Quinn said, that's ridiculous. He said, head coaches get fired all the time, or coordinators or whatever, and then they still get the job. I mean, this is National Football League. Some of these owners are cutthroat. So, that's just ridiculous. But I don't even care about that. I'm just glad that, he's back here in Detroit. He said he talked about it with his wife. They love Detroit. Their family loves it here. Obviously, he has a good relationship with Campbell and company and the players. He wants to win a Super Bowl. That's what he wants to do. And look at the offense. Like Coach just said, this is Super Bowl ready. With the team we have right now, if we keep our offense intact, we can absolutely win a Super Bowl with this offense. We don't need to bring in anyone else. If Holmes and Campbell decides to do that, that's great too. But I'm confident with the group we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And let's talk about one of those guys that aren't imminently going, but we certainly would like to get him to stay, huh? Jared Goff, quarterback coach. And he had a good game. He missed some in the second half, no question. But first half, oh my gosh. I mean, the whole team played amazing. But Jared Goff showed us in this game what he's all about. He showed us that the whole season had a couple rough games. Who doesn't? But oh my goodness, this is a special quarterback right here we've got, Coach.
This is a Jared Goff game. This is not out of his character or out of his stat line or out of his production. We scored 31 points. I understand 7 of those were late, but they still were offensive points. the QBR isn't that scintillating, sensational 3-digit QBR, but it's 88.8. I mean, it's not something that can win football games. It's the first time he's been on the road in 3 weeks. He's played the last 3 weeks at home in those games where people are chanting his name. If they're chanting his name at Red Wing hockey games and Piston basketball games and at Michigan State basketball games and Western Michigan hockey games and their arena, you can just about imagine probably what they were doing at Ford Field, which you got to witness, both you and Brad got to witness and hearing those chants. He didn't have that kind of backup. Although, what did you hear one time going through Levi Stadium there early in the second quarter? A massive Jared Goff chant. So he at least got that going for him. But he was fighting the crowd. That was not a crowd that was for Jared Goff.
No.
By and large, that was a 49er crowd. And, he still performed well enough to win. Could we have used an inch here or inch there? Obviously, we lost the football game. We could say that about every single player just about.
Yeah.
But Jared Goff did not harm the Detroit Lions' chances of winning that football game at all.
Yeah, I agree. And Brad, do you see any reason why Detroit shouldn't bring Jared Goff back, or at least try to extend him?
Oh, no, try to extend him. Thank you. I mean, the only thing I can say about Jared Goff or to Jared Goff is thank you. Thank you for everything you put in to make those Sundays as joyful as they were. And there's no doubt in my mind that this, when that next contract comes, he's going to keep working. The timing will be interesting. The salary cap situation. I mean, we're in a great salary cap situation for this upcoming season. But, Brad Holmes is going to put in that work, and we'll see when the right time is to extend him, because that is the right thing to do for this franchise. And once again, all I can say to Jared Goff is thanks.
Yeah, exactly. What a great season. What he overcame. I mean, and Justin, that Rams game still. I mean, the level of emotion in that game and the hurdles they had to jump over in winning that game was significant. Do you see any concerns bringing Goff back at probably north of $40 million a year? Because there's about 12 quarterbacks in the league right now making that kind of money. And I'm guessing at least 6 of them probably aren't at Goff's level. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like Brad said, pay the man. I mean, he just won the Lions and us fans 2 playoff games, 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl. He's done nothing but been a professional since he got here. And if you can remember his first press conference introducing himself, and people are kind of like a little leery, like, he's just our bridge quarterback, whatever. Something that stuck out to me in that initial press conference was he told us fans the gut punches will stop. They will stop. And I think they have. I mean, yeah, we got a little bit of a gut punch, not winning and going on to the Super Bowl, but he accomplished so much. I mean, I was elated in the beginning of the season if we won a playoff game. That was kind of in my stratosphere. But to win 2, have 2 home playoff games and playing the NFC Championship, almost getting to the Super Bowl, this guy's a class act, and I think he deserves every single penny. And he's a leader of this football team and this organization. And if you go up and down the roster, all the guys love him and said, yeah, he's our guy. So I say back up the Brinks truck and pay the man.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And when you look at cap implications now, he's counting about $31 million against the cap next year. So you're not looking at an astronomical hit. I mean, it's going to be a hit against the cap. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not like you're going to tack on another $25 million on the cap for one guy. It's probably 10. So
Romeo Quora money.
That that might free up something there. But yeah, I hear you. Yeah, there's ways to get around that, and I don't think there's any question they need to bring him back, because there's just not that many guys that are doing it at a higher level, and he's still young. So you and honestly, yeah, I talked about the Rams game a little bit, and we'll get into the rest of the offense in a minute here. And I know Stafford went to the Rams and won a Super Bowl that first year, but Jared Goff, I think more than justified that trade and put a stamp on it this year. And of course, all of the additional players they were able to get with draft capital and additional moves Holmes was able to make with those picks. We could go down a list. I mean, Campbell, Gibbs, and Laporta this year alone. It in the first 3 picks. I mean, that's amazing. And this right now the future is very bright. So definitely looking forward to next season, and hopefully, and we know that'll be with Jared Goff, and hopefully for much longer than that. Coach, let's talk about that running game. Like you mentioned it earlier, there's going to be change. There's going to be different players. David Montgomery wasn't a Lion last year when they were 9-8. Jamal Williams was, and he had a fine season, and he left. David Montgomery's here. He had a pretty solid game. Very, very good game. Ran tough. But your thoughts on the running game as a whole, because we see Montgomery with 93 yards and a touchdown on the ground. We go to Jahmyr Gibbs. He had 45 and a touchdown. I know he had the fumble, and not sure who got crossed up there, but he had the ball, but he never really secured it. And that's something he's been all. That was I believe it's the first time he fumbled all year. Was it not, Coach?
I believe Jahmyr Gibbs may have fumbled once or twice earlier in the year, but and I think he has. But at any rate, I think he's the guy that got crossed up. It looks like it was his mistake. He stepped the wrong way. That got into a title. Those kinds of things happen, and what it is, it's a nervous energy that expounds. It happens in game and team dynamics. And the wave, it was a red and gold wave of the faithful there in San Francisco. That entire, third and obviously well into the fourth quarter until the last little drive there. But we had 138 yards on the ground. We were successful. We ran the football well enough to win the football game. He was able to get into the end zone once himself. But the bell cow this time was Dave Montgomery. His run style seemed to be hitting a little bit better than Jahmyr's, just in this game plan. But that run game, which is solidified by the work of that great offensive line, and led by Taylor Decker. Jonah Jackson has been a massive contributor during the team's rising. Frank Ragnow. We've mentioned Graham Glasgow, Hank Fatai in the past. Iowa Sika's played in there. Dan Skipper, obviously led by probably the best offensive tackle in the game, and that's Penei Sewell. And if he's not the best offensive tackle in the game, he will be the best offensive tackle in the game and mentioned as such. He's our best football player. And, watch what they do in the future. I mean, if you didn't already this year, what they did with him to get the running game going, the different type of blocking that they did. It's amazing how active he was throughout those football games. So, the Lions are a running football team. That's who we are. That's the identity of Dan Campbell's offense and football teams. They run the football real well. And then Coach Johnson can do the things to enhance it with formations and scheme and those kinds of things. And then obviously get the pass rolling too. But this has been a great upgrade. And, may we upgrade other position groups like we were able to upgrade the running back position group this past year.
Yeah, and you say upgrade, and Brad, I mean, last year, this was a pretty damn good running attack. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, it was a nice 1-2 punch, and they were Williams 17 rushing touchdowns, but like Coach said, they turn it over and they get better. Your thoughts about this running game as a whole?
Well, that goes. You think about Brad Holmes and he wears that villain hoodie, like I mean, the end of last year, who would have thought we wouldn't have DeAndre Swift or Jamal Williams? So what's coming this next few months? Stay tuned, right? But just excellent. You know, I mean, we got a rookie running back going to the Pro Bowl games, like a rookie, and so an outstanding performance from those guys. You know, I think about the game specifically though, and Campbell used the word catastrophe, and it really, when you sat back and you thought about what just happened in that second half, specifically in that third quarter, that's the best word you could come up with. Because when I think about this running game and I think about that lead, and I think we ran the ball 8 times in the second half. Yeah. Malfeasance or whatever that word is, right? Like, you know, these coaches aren't too proud to know. Like, they're going to look at that film, and I don't see that happening again, based on a number of factors. And one is you got Jahmyr Gibbs and you got David Montgomery in your backfield. And maybe, like I said, Gibbs with that turnover, that really hurt us. And that was so uncharacteristic of him. Characteristic of a rookie, but you're not a rookie when you're this far into the playoffs either. So we're in good shape. We are in good shape. We are not going to see an overhaul of that running back room this year for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And Justin, Coach brought up the O-line. Could we be seeing changes in your view there? Because obviously that running game is going to go as far as that O-line takes them. And that unit this year, I wouldn't trade it for any other unit in the 31 teams in the NFL. But your thoughts going into next season, what are you seeing happening?
Well, I would like, for us to keep what we have, but we all know this is the NFL. It is a business. Players want money, better contracts and whatnot. One guy I'm looking at in particular that, we might lose is Jonah Jackson. And, as bad as that may be, because he has a lot of, camaraderie and continuity on that offensive line with the rest of the guys, I do think, Holmes and Campbell could find, either through the draft or free agency, someone to replace him. I know, we talked before the show that Graham Glasgow wants to come back. Obviously the numbers have to be, fleshed out and whatnot, but he did say, he wants to come back and wants to make another crack at it. And that's huge because, like I said before the show as well, he's like a coach and a player, all at once. But really, hoping we can keep this group intact. And I think Holmes will try to do that. And maybe, Jackson will, stick around and, want to make a Super Bowl run. So we'll have to see there. But definitely we will have to upgrade in the draft. We're going to have to beef up that offensive line because, like Brad, Coach touched on, this is a running football team first and foremost. We're not a passing team. We like to run it down your throat. With that 1-2 punch with Montgomery and Gibbs. Those guys, as long as they're healthy and that offensive line is somewhat healthy, we have a hell of a shot on all these games that we play. And next season, the schedule gets harder. And we're going to have to grind some of these games out, against like the Buffalo Bills. The LA Rams come back into town. Tampa Bay comes back into town. We're going on the road again in Dallas. So we're going to need those grinding out games, and that starts with the offensive line. So hopefully it keeps intact, but if not, I'm very confident in Holmes and Campbell that they could find a replacement.
Yeah, no, well said, Justin. And Coach, before we go to the receivers and tight end groups here, your thoughts on that O-line? What changes are you seeing potentially coming up for next season?
Yeah, I think Justin kind of hit it. I think, there is the possibility that we would have to replace 2 starters. And then that'd be the form of the guards. I mean, I think it would be. I think they will look to re-sign at least one of them. And I do think Glasgow, just because of his position versatility, and that we have to oftentimes cover Frank Ragnow because the poor guy's got some chronic injuries starting to surface in his 6-year career. So we need to have that guy that's a little bit position versatile. Jonah Jackson, I believe, can do that as well, but that is best served by Graham Glasgow. he's earned his payday. Jonah Jackson's a multiple year Pro Bowler. He's earned his payday. We just have to be wise here because we have to make an investment on this defense. We've got some money that we need to make sure that we secure Mr. Sewell, Mr. Laporta, Mr. St. Brown, and some guys that we probably are going to extend or want to sign for a second contract. We are in a spot to where our day 2 picks could very well yield a starter in the offensive line area. And, we could look to, prime the pump a little bit with a Johnny come lately that's on the rise that might just be a little bit down cycle from Jonah Jackson, yet perform better over the term of his contract because Jonah Jackson will be going more towards the downside of his career from this point forward in regards to his probably health and viability to play long term. So, left guard, I think, is something that we can probably expect to see somebody different. And overall, we need to improve and keep improving the depth of this offensive line. As we've seen, almost every single one of those players at one point in time had an injury that kept them from playing. So, or almost kept them from playing. So we need to make sure that we're young and versatile and strong and talented and supporting the depth of these great players, but probably looking to fill the left guard spot.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. And I think, if Jonah Jackson, I mean, I'm 90% convinced he's going to be gone because I don't think they'll be able to afford him. There is a chance he may take a little less to stay. I don't know. I don't know the extent of his injuries. And we know he had a meniscus issue similar to Ragnow's. That's all we know. We know he was off injured the whole season. To get an opportunity to really, set yourself up for life. I get it. I totally understand it. So I'd be surprised if he stayed. I'm not saying I think he wants to leave. I don't know that at all, but and I would think he wouldn't, but it is a business like you guys said, and there's no question he's going to get offered some big money, and yet at face value next year you could do it, but to coach's point, you've got Sewell, St. Brown, Laporta, those guys, and then even Goff, they got to get extended. So there's 4 guys that are going to get significant pay hikes. Something's got to give.
Hey, Drew, here's a surprise I hope we never have to face this offseason. Frank Ragnow. And the multiple injuries that he's taken on and the injury reports he's been on every week and the mind that he has. And don't leave us, Frank. Don't leave us.
Yeah. Brad is right. It's not a given that he's coming back. It is not a given.
I mean, I think he will play as long as he can. I hope he can play to the level of that he believes he should. And I once again, it would be a shock to me. We've all been surprised at some point of our Lions fandom. Oh man, I don't know. Some of the stuff I've heard him say, and I know he just cares, and I know he's not going down to Orlando to the Pro Bowl because he just wants to get things straightened out in his head. Right? Good. All that's good. I love that man, and boy, that's a key piece.
Yes, he is. Absolutely. On the field, in the locker room, off the field, that guy's a leader. He's a monster. So, yeah, hopefully 77's back. Guys, let's talk about the receiving core, how they performed as a whole. We look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches, 87 yards. We look at J-Mo. He had a couple catches for 25. He caught that last touchdown late, had that big end-around run. Brad, I got to admit, I was kind of fooled at first. That was a beautiful fake, the way Montgomery cut inside. The deep defensive end bit on it, and it was a beautifully executed play. Talk about what you saw out of Jameson Williams, Nick. And there was a deep pass, would have been a tough catch, but again,
he didn't find it. He didn't find it at the end. But that first play is something like, I mean, that's what we're going to remember forever. We're going to break that thing down, and we're going to talk about how he got shot out of a cannon and just ran by everybody. Like that's the ability that guy has is tremendous. So that's their future, and I'm all for it. So what a great play. That was when I think I kind of blacked out a little bit. Like people were going crazy in the basement, and I couldn't believe what I saw. And I was sure happy when they had the replay over and over and over again. What a performance.
Yeah, that was a great run. And he was under duress. He had his shirt pulled. He had got his foot clipped, and he still stayed up and took it to the house. So that was a beautiful thing. And then Sam Laporta, 9 catches, 97 yards. Justin, you mentioned him earlier. I mean, once again, rookie Sam Laporta just getting it done on a bad knee. He'll be 100% ready to go next season. But talk about Sam Laporta.
What's left there to say? I mean, the guy is a rookie and completely dominated the National Football League in his first year of NFL football, and still playing, with that knee issue and whatnot, and still coming up huge, just shy of 100 yards in the NFC Championship game. His counterpart on the other side, Kittle, he got the better of him, but he still showed up, man. He made some huge catches, third down catches, stretching the play. And what he's good too, if you saw in that game, he knows where the sticks are. I mean, he knows where it is, and he fights for that every single inch, every single yard. I love that about him. That's a very good sign. I cannot wait for him to suit up next season and see what he does. And with Ben Johnson coming back calling plays, this guy, he's already a stud as a rookie. I'm stunned. I'm flabbergasted, and I'm glad he's a Detroit Lion.
Incredible season for Sam Laporta. And then we look at Josh Reynolds. He had 1 catch for 25. And Coach, I want to talk to you about Josh Reynolds. I know he had the 2 drops. They were big. I mean, they're huge drops, especially the first one. But man, all season long, this guy, I think the first 4 games of the year, every pass he caught was either for a first down or a touchdown. He's a free agent coming up. Your thoughts on Josh Reynolds and the chances of the Lions retaining him?
Well, I think there's a very good chance that they retain him as long as they want to, as long as the price point is correct. I mean, they did him a real solid in that Minnesota game, feeding him the rock late to try to get to his incentive, which he did. He had a career year. He was amazing this year. He was a great wide receiver too. Outside of the NFC Championship game, extremely sure-handed, made some huge grabs, caught some big touchdowns, even as of the Tampa Bay game. So there's a lot to like with Josh Reynolds on a short-term deal, with probably an enhanced dollar amount from what he's earning. Those 2 catches aside, drop passes, come at a premium in the NFL. And if you become a guy that gets a reputation that, he gets a little case of the dropsies in the big games, that is an individual that may or may not be here long term, but that's not calling Josh Reynolds that kind of a player. He's, tremendously unselfish. He's, that team type guy. He really is a fit here. And we have a need for him to fulfill his role as a wide receiver too. Now, that being said, looking at this offense, we have, one of the most prolific passers of this era right now, active era in the NFL, and Jared Goff. We have a premier offensive line. We have an A+ running game. We have perhaps the best young tight end and maybe soon the best tight end in football. We have an electric guy on his rookie deal as a wide receiver. We have one of the most productive wide receivers in the game. Do we take that draft pick or a draft pick in the first 2 days and make a splash at a wide receiver to try to really round out the core? But this would come at the expense probably of a Josh Reynolds. And lest we forget Khalif Raymond.
Yeah, he is under contract.
Who'll be back, and he was a huge piece of the puzzle. Could we see Khalif come back and JMO kind of go into a role of Josh Reynolds and us use this money in a different way? That's possible. But you know what? I do think the Lions probably work with Josh Reynolds on something. But Josh Reynolds' role may change next year, not just because of these two drops, but it may become more of as a reserve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all that's possible. A lot of it. Yeah, these guys and Coach Campbell, Brad Holmes, and company. They know these guys inside and out. They know how they think. They know how they see them in practice every day, which is the most important thing. We get to see game days. They get to see them practice and how they and their dedication in the weight room and being in the meetings, etc. And it all matters. That room as a whole is solid, rock solid, and could become elite. They've got elite players there. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporte are elite NFL players. There's no question about that. So it's exciting. I agree with you guys totally. The offense is in very good shape. The O-line is the key, and yeah, they've got to address the inside. I agree. I think Glasgow, I would like to see him back, and I think they'll make that happen. I would be surprised if Jackson's back, but they can address this in the draft, and who knows? Maybe Iosika and Swordsdal, maybe a year under their belt, a good strong offseason, a good camp. You never know. So sky's the limit here on offense, but I'd like to go around, guys. We've talked about the game, and obviously it's disappointing that the Lions lost. But sum this season up. Take a couple minutes. Start with you, Brad. What this season means to you and your optimism for next year.
Well, expectations were exceeded. I had high expectations. My expectations were to win the division, win a playoff game. That's high expectations for all of us Lions fans who are talking about this team, watching this team, listening to this podcast. So the joy that I had throughout this, when this pain subsides, and it's still there because it was one half of football left.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing this on Wednesday after the Sunday game. I haven't been able to verbalize this until right now because the pain is so real. But that's going to wash away. It's washing away, and the joy is what's going to take over. Going to that Rams game with my son and having that experience together, that's a lifetime of memories. My wife and I in the basement watching these games from the house all year. She's into it not as much as me, but she at least watched them with me this year. And even my daughter came downstairs. She came downstairs for the playoffs.
Okay.
So
like that.
We made some memories.
That's great. That's great. Very well said. Justin, sum it up for us.
I think just one thing comes to my mind is that I'm just proud. I'm proud of this football team. I'm proud of this organization, proud of the city. The greatest thing is that, our Detroit sports teams are near and dear to us. And I do think we have the greatest, fans and football fans in the country. The way the city rallies behind the team and then the team feeds off of, the city and the fans. They've said that over and over again in these playoffs. Ragnow and Decker and the long-standing guys that have been here, they know how much this means to the city. So I don't know, again, any other team that is really built with their city like this. And Jared Goff too, he understands how big this was, winning a playoff game and then winning another one, 2 home playoff games. So just seeing everyone around the city just being joyous and just even in the police department, you know, people were just so excited talking about it nonstop. Brad talks about his wife, and I got my wife involved as well. She was there watching that LA Rams game with me, and, you know, she was all into it and so happy that they won. I took her to Rally House Saturday before the 49er game, and it was packed. Lion stuff was flying off the shelves. I'm not kidding. People were just grabbing hats, T-shirts, anything they could find. The place was packed. And I've been in there so many times where it's just me and my wife, or I'm just me by myself in there, and no one's picking at Lion stuff. No one's even looking at Lion stuff. You know, they're looking at Tiger stuff or Red Wings or, you know, Michigan State. That was a sight to see. That was really cool. Just people just smiling and being so happy. So that's all I can say is I'm just proud, and I'm looking forward to next season already.
Very well said. Coach, sum up how this makes you feel.
I mean, historic. You know, it is truly a historic season. You know, outside of winning the NFL championship in the 50s and the 30s once, you know, there's been nothing like this. And 1991 came close, but this was bigger. You know, it's synergistic nationally. These are the Lions football games, their last 3 football games, the Los Angeles game, the Tampa Bay game, and the San Francisco game. They are among the most watched sporting events of the 2023 and 2024 early calendar year. The nation was starting to embrace the Detroit Lions. They turned heads. And, you know, that's just the synergy. You know, and history. I'm very, very fortunate enough to have gone down there, with the exception of the Raiders game on Monday night, and then the Saturday night primetime game against the Denver Broncos. Those are the 2 games I was not in attendance for. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have a job inside Ford Field, and I get to, you know, be at the games, and you know, to really just have, you know, the ability to kind of see these players. They act no different than when they were 1-6. They act no different than what they were then. This is a system that, you know, I don't really want to kind of get into those kinds of conversations with people that don't want to be fatalists, and this was our only shot, and that it's not going to happen again, and those kinds of things. The Lions, now we may never win the Super Bowl. We may never get there. Okay, I'm not saying that I can't guarantee, like anybody else, you know, I can guarantee that the Lions are going to the Super Bowl next year, that I can guarantee that it's going to be an 80-degree day tomorrow. You know, I can't really do that. But, you know, honestly, you know, we are going to have more opportunities to chase the Super Bowl. We are going to have opportunities to be the number 2 or the number 1 seed in the NFC. We are going to have opportunities to have more home playoff games and unbelievable experiences and memories. We're going to have opportunities to host the NFC Championship game. You know, that's the hope that we need to do. That's the reach that we need to do to get to that next level that we're ultimately trying to do. Not more. Hey, look at San Francisco's record in the NFC Championship game. Look at how many times they've been to the Super Bowl. Look at Kansas City as of late and how many times they've been to the Super Bowl. We could be somebody like that.
Absolutely.
We could be somebody like that. And I firmly believe that's the intention.
Yeah, you guys summed it up beautifully. I just know that expectations, it's great. This is really cool. Expectations are going to be real high next year. I don't know what that means. I can speculate what that means. I mean, you know, they were 30 minutes, a half game away from getting to the big one. So, needless to say, it's a good pressure. But to be in that position, even be thought of that way, means you've got something special going. I think Ben Johnson staying speaks volumes about what's happening there, about the culture. I mean, you know, guys, me personally, I've done my share of job hopping, looking for a better opportunity, looking for better, you know. But I'll tell you what, you know, I'm on a much smaller scale. I mean, I had one position I was in where I was very happy. I really liked where I was. I wasn't making great money, but I was making good money. I didn't want to leave. Unfortunately, the volatility of my business, which is automotive, plants close, and they close a lot. So you move around. And I'm saying I got promoted, and this guy basically, by all accounts, turned down a significant promotion to stay and finish a job in a place that he really feels good at. He's getting paid well. Yeah, he could have broke the bank, but you know what? He's got unfinished business here, and that's what he said. Those are his words, and I think we all agree with that. So cannot wait for next season. Now, here we go. In April, we're only about 2.5 months away, 3 months away from the draft that Detroit's hosting. You know, you mentioned it. The last 3 games were 3 of the most watched sporting events of this past year, over a year. Not one of them involved Dallas, so we can check that off. Nope. This has been happening. It's not just the Lions either. You talk about why were the Detroit Red Wings in the Western Conference forever? Because when they play Arizona on NBC, people are watching. Who's watching? Detroit fans are watching, and they are all over the place. Detroit's a medium-sized market financially, but in terms of sports fandom, and I say this having lived near Boston for 4 years, been around a lot of folks. They're great fans. Chicago, we all know they're good fans, great fans, but you've got people going in the rally house like Justin was talking about. They're buying Hutchinson jerseys in June. They're buying Red Wing Dylan Larkin jerseys in August. It's year round, and most of the fans in Michigan, Detroit, aren't just a football or a basketball or baseball. They like them all. Now, of course, there's different levels of, we all like different sports more than others, but they support the local teams. The 4 big teams, they get full support. And when things are running well, look out. I mean, this is exciting. This is really cool for the city. It's cool for the team. It's great for the fans. I mean, I was really happy that the fans were really, really great in the playoffs. It was awesome. It was good to see. Made me feel good inside personally because social media can just be such a drag, man. I tell you what. I mean, keyboard warriors. Oh my goodness. I mean, I swear. But
how about the people that paid hundreds and thousands of dollars to go to the game? Those are the fans, Dave.
Those are the fans.
Anybody can go on there and get a free X account and troll and hack. Who even knows who you're seeing there?
Yeah.
I mean, that might not even be a Detroit fan. We got plenty of them, and they're real, and they deserve every bit of what we got today too, or this year too.
It was great. Great atmosphere. Great support. Whether it was in the stadium, on the road, viewership on TV, they did a nice job. They did a great job. Draft's going to be very exciting. Our draft coverage is going to start very soon. Our draft coverage is going to start here very shortly. I don't even have that. We don't even have normally we had the itinerary about 4 weeks ago. We would have had that dialed in, but no, we had some unfinished business here. We had to keep tracking this team, so we're more than happy about that. So we had a little homework to do. I know Coach has already jumped all over it. That's why he's got the title, Coach, not just because he's the coach. He's all over it. So we're going to be ready to go. We're going to break down our position groups and getting ready for that draft. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. So hopefully we'll all get together and talk some position groups down the road here between now and April. So let's wrap this one up, guys. Thank you very much. Very much appreciate you guys taking the time. We all got families, all got jobs, man. It's not easy. I've had to bail on a couple. I had to change schedules around. It happens, and but you guys did a hell of a job. Thank you. We're about wrapped up with year 6. Once we hit that mock draft in April for the first round, that'll wrap up our 6th season. We'll be jumping into year 7, so that's going to be exciting. So one final time for Lions Roundtable on 2023 for Coach Andy Shield, the Marine City Mariners, for Detroit's finest Justin Merriquin, and for the U for Brad Harrison. I'm Drew. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Click that bell. Get those notifications going. We're going to have content out there every week. So keep watching. Keep tuned in. Let us know your thoughts. Comment. Hit that like button. Let us know what you're thinking. Hit the thumbs down button if you don't agree with it. But let us know what you think. Take care, everybody. We will talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and for your support. Remember, when you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.